crap, damn, a prologue can change everything.
Izumi knows a lot. Nick Izumi hits the spot. Nick Izumi does reviews, and he hopes you like them too. In all his animated glory, he'll talk about another story.
I feel like every kid from my generation saw Pokemon the first movie in theaters as soon as we could. I mean, we all loved the living crap out of Pokemon. And at the time, we ate this movie up, along with pretty much anything else with Pikachu slapped on it. Even as we got older, it seems like people still love this movie, and I don't quite get it. It hasn't really aged that well. For those of you who haven't seen this animated epic, or just don't remember it, Pokemon the first movie follows our heroes Ash, Brock, Misty, and Pikachu as they are invited, along with several other Pokemon trainers, to a mysterious island where they meet Mewtwo, a psychic cat monster super soldier who clones an entire army of Pokemon from the trainers and then forces them to fight because he wants to destroy the world and replace all life with his clones. We had really low standards, don't ask. Anyway, Mew, the Pokemon Mewtwo was cloned from, shows up, and then they all have a big ol' fight until poor Ash decides to intervene. When he is blasted by both Mews, he turns to stone, but all the Pokemon are so sad that he gets better. And then we learned that violence is never the answer. Until Mewtwo decides to wipe everybody's memory. The end. Yeah, that's honestly all there is to it. I mean, there's some nice animation and a bizarre and completely out-of-place R&B number, but it's a pretty forgettable movie beyond that. I think most people love it for its nostalgia value, right? But if that's the case, why am I even starting with this? Why would I even want to talk about this movie other than making clickbait because Pokemon Go is huge right now? Well, it's actually because the Japanese version of this movie is really, really good. The original Japanese cut of the film, Poketon Monster Mewtwo no Gyakushu, is actually only a little bit longer than the American version, but the film is drastically different. This is primarily because the stakes are much, much smaller, but they're also more intimate and relatable. At the end of the day, Mewtwo Strikes Back, what the title translates to, is a movie about a psychic cat monster having a violent existential crisis. No, really! Before I get ahead of myself, to clarify, I am talking about the Kanzenban version of the movie. This director's cut of the film includes an extended prologue based on the radio drama Birth of Mewtwo, and it makes all the difference. Like in the US cut of the film, we see that Mewtwo was the result of a cloning project by scientists trying to harness the power of the legendary Pokemon Mew. But we also see the larger implications of this program in the Japanese version. Mewtwo is conscious, but he's only allowed to psychically interact with other clones, all of whom are in glass tubes. They include the 3 starters from the first couple games, and the electronically preserved mind of the lead scientist's dead daughter. Yeah, we're starting in a happy place. Mewtwo is intelligent, but having technically only just been born, he lacks experience. The little girl, I2, being a child, relates easily to Mewtwo. And in that regard, his first moments are happy. But the clones are unstable, and slowly but surely, Mewtwo watches each of his friends dissolve one by one. The viewer is treated to seeing the clones' actual bodies have literally liquefied, and there's no doubt as to what their final fate is. In I2's last moments, she tells Mewtwo that all animals cry when they are hurt, but only humans can cry when they are sad. The rest of the film plays out largely the same, but Mewtwo's motivations for everything he does are completely different. When his body is finally allowed to physically awaken, Mewtwo is desperate for answers. But before he can even inquire about the meaning of life, he finds his creators unconcerned with his well-being, but all too ready to call themselves gods. Distraught and heartbroken, Mewtwo destroys the lab, killing all of the scientists inside. Just like the American cut, Mewtwo then submits to a criminal organization, Team Rocket. But there he is told that he does have a reason to exist, and that reason is to submit to humans and to fight for them. Still emotionally unfulfilled, Mewtwo eventually abandons Team Rocket and then returns to the lab to rebuild it. In this cut, Mewtwo has no interest in destroying the world. He simply wants to clone Pokemon and have them battle with the originals. By defeating them, he feels that it will prove the clone's worth, and by extension, his own worth. Again, he's an intelligent creature, but because fighting is all he's ever known, he decides to show that he is superior by not only winning a fight, but by proving his superiority to the humans who told him he was second class. So yeah, a castle, an elaborate plot, an army of clones, all so that he can feel like his life means something. And for those of you who are curious, yes, Mew has drastically different motivations as well. Now, the English version of Mew wants nothing more than to live in harmony and end all violence. But that's not in the original. It's not in there in any way, shape, or form. This cat monster's a little pink punk! Rather than just trying to talk down Mewtwo, Mew gladly accepts his challenge, asserting that the originals won't just roll over because clones exist, and so the violence only escalates. Now, if you're thinking, where does Satoshi, Ash's Japanese name, even factor into this monstrous battle over the meaning of life? Well, it pays off, and it honestly pays off really nicely. Satoshi throws himself into the fray, only to be caught between Mew and Mewtwo's respective blasts. But here it means much more. Remember I2's last words. Only humans cry when they are sad. Satoshi appears to be dead, much to the horror of his beloved Pikachu. But to Mewtwo's shock, Pikachu cries for him. And not just Pikachu. The entire cadre of monsters, both original and clone, cry for the fallen child. They cry out of sadness. And with this, for the first time, Mewtwo sees all life as equal, and recognizes that he selfishly organized a tournament just so he wouldn't feel numb. And as Satoshi is resurrected, he opts to erase the memories of those he kidnapped and finally face life as something other than being a living weapon. I really like this movie. Truth be told, while I was really into the Pokemon boom of the late 90s, and while I still play the games as they come out, I don't consider myself a huge Poke fan. But this movie, at least the Japanese cut of this movie, it's really solid. It's a character study with big concept ideas, and yeah, the implications are super dark, but I think the dub did a huge disservice to a really interesting movie tie-in to a popular cartoon series. By making Mewtwo simply the bad guy trying to take over the world, you lose the most powerful character arc in the entire film. The English version does raise the stakes by making his selfish ego tournament into a plot to destroy the world, but it also makes Mewtwo completely unrelatable. Most of all, though, this prologue is what makes this movie. It rips your heart out, it makes a great short film on its own, and most of all, it informs everything that our focused character does for the rest of the movie. So if you get the chance, check out Pokemon Mewtwo Strikes Back in its original language. It's very nicely animated, and it's a really interesting character study on a decidedly non-human character. And it's a Pokemon movie. See? This movie exists for a good reason. From the Fifth Avenue Studios, this is Nick Izumi saying, keep on spockin' in the free world. Also, I went this entire video without mentioning that this scientist looks exactly like Dr. Frickin' Tenma. What is this, some sort of alternate reality where he got into genetic experiments instead of robotics? Or is this just the look for everybody who's a evil scientist who does terrible things to get their children back?